This podcast is powered by the pros at Paschal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPaschal.com.
Connor O'Gara's got a lot to tell us, though, from Saturday Down South about college football. We appreciate his time on a Monday. Hey, Connor, how are you?
Gentlemen, doing really well. Can't say that I got into the Billy Joel catalog as a kid. My parents were not the biggest on Billy Joel, so I'm not very well versed in. But I mean, I know the hits, but I cannot say that is my area of expertise.
Well, I celebrate his entire catalog, Connor, so if you ever need a little help with that, I'm here for you. That song comes from the album An Innocent Man. It is Billy Joel's salute to 1950s doo-wop music and stuff like that. It's really good. It's a banger, 1 through, I think, 9 songs, so I'd recommend it for you.
All right. I'm going to add that one to the list. It's a long list. Haven't necessarily had a whole lot of time to dig into my alternate music taste lately, but you know, I'm gonna add. If you say Billy Joel is good, Phil, I'm taking your word for it.
If you say Billy Joel is alternate, I'll take your word for that too. You're obviously into spring football right now, so we got our spring games coming up in like a month or so. So you know, we have more access now. Alabama's given more access to media. Sam Pittman's given more access to media. I don't know about the other situations around the SEC. Maybe some are following suit. But in some cases, you don't necessarily just have to take the coach's word for it and a soundbite because there's more media inside there now. So, I think that's a step forward. What have you thought about, in Alabama's case, opening up practice and to be able to talk to the assistants more?
What a crazy concept. I was of the belief that if media ever got access to college practices, that we were going to provide play-by-play analysis for every other team in college football of what those teams were about to do. We were going to release all of their secrets. We were going to share them to the world, and then they would therefore fail as a direct result of having media access. It is pretty crazy thinking about how different the NFL and college are when it comes to that, but seeing a place like Alabama actually have an open practice for media and having coordinators available to talk, like these are different times that we're living in. I'm old enough to remember when I covered Nebraska, when you could talk to coordinators after a game, like they were part of this media scrum, and you could talk to coordinators about play calls after a game. And that's at Nebraska, a place that's super, super prideful. I don't know if they've gotten away from that, but gosh, I mean, some of these things that we're talking about here, it's a reminder that there is no paranoia like the paranoia of a college football coach. So it's nice to see some of these programs realizing that they don't have to exist in that bubble to be able to succeed.
Hey, Connor, I want to ask you a question about the draft. Is that running back from Michigan? Is he going to get drafted? Who's a couple of running backs that are moving up the draft boards?
Yeah, Blake Corum's a stud. I mean, he's an absolute stud, and I don't know what exactly his NFL future is going to be because it feels like this running back class doesn't really have the top-end Bijan Robinson guy to begin with. Once upon a time, I was telling myself, maybe Rocket Sanders could be that guy in this class, and then obviously it just was a lost season for him. But I feel like that's kind of the case as we talk about running backs to begin with, and there are so few that get that rare distinction. But Blake Corum, man, like, I don't know what more you need to see from that guy to believe that he just kind of gets it. He and Cody Schrader both. I don't know if they're going to be drafted before the 3rd round or anything like that, but you just know what you're going to get with them from the jump. You know that the mindset is never going to be in question. You know that they're going to be the ultimate guy to kind of have in your locker room. And I think that if you look at this running back class and try and find that late-round value, which is what everybody tries to do, I'd be going after 2 guys like that. And I realize they got some miles on those legs, but, man, Blake Corum, I think there are a lot of Alabama fans going, gosh, if we could have only found a way to stop that guy down the stretch, this could have been a much different ending for us.
You know, as you're getting into some of with the Mac Jones trade, you're looking back at that 2021 draft for quarterbacks, and there's only one starter left out of them, and that's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm assuming Justin Fields, wherever he goes, may have to compete for playing time, but we don't even know where he's going to go. For this year's draft, I don't know if I hear a lot about Spencer Rattler. There's a lot about the names that you know about: Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix. McCarthy's moved up the boards. Spencer Rattler didn't necessarily win a ton of games, but there are moments he looked like a pro quarterback. I think he could be. I think he could have success in the NFL.
I got something that Arkansas fans aren't going to want to hear, but I got to say it. Arkansas would have been so much better off with Dow Loggins as their OC as opposed to Dan Enos. And I'm not breaking news by saying it, but it's a reminder that that was a really nice hire for Shane Beamer. And I know the final record doesn't necessarily show a team that got better offensively, but if you watch South Carolina and you saw the improvement from year to year with Spencer Rattler, it was so noticeable. And the job that Dow Loggins did developing him, it makes me feel a lot more confident about their quarterback situation, despite the fact that it's really unproven with Lenora Sellers and Robbie Ashford coming in from Auburn. But, man, like, they had so many limitations, like Arkansas, just a terrible offensive line that you couldn't really do much of anything with, and it's kind of hard to scheme when your offensive line's a train wreck. Juice Wells was out pretty much for the entire year. He was expected to be their best offensive player. But the job that Dow Loggins did developing Spencer Rattler, you're right. It was super undernoticed. I think he's going to end up being a mid-round pick. He was the Shrine Bowl MVP. Like, this is a guy who played better than Bo Nix. Or not the Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl, rather. He played better than him and just kind of showed a lot of people, like, this is a guy where if you miss out on that first or second tier of quarterback in the draft, I think somebody's going to get Spencer Rattler in the mid-rounds and be like, wow, this guy actually might have a chance to eventually be our starting quarterback one day.
Hey, how many of these Michigan Wolverines are going to go in the first round? I know they're talking about setting some type of record or having 18, 19 guys drafted, but realistically, who are the guys that are going to go in the first round?
I mean, that's a good question because I think McCarthy does end up going in the first round. Who knows if like a Roman Wilson will? I don't think Corum will. And they have a defensive guy or two that will. I don't think it's so much about the first round number. Like, they might only have like 3 first rounders, but the depth is just the thing that you're looking at going, oh my goodness, that's crazy. And Jim Harbaugh has been talking about it for a long time. And I kind of scoffed at him when he said that he thought Michigan was going to break Georgia's record for most players selected in the modern draft era record. Georgia had 15 in the 2022 draft. This is only counting, the draft since it went to 7 rounds in 1994. But I think Michigan's going to break that record. And I'll take it a step further. I think the Big Ten is going to actually have more guys drafted than the SEC. As crazy as that is, because it's 17 consecutive years of the SEC winning that title, I think Michigan fuels that. I really do. And I think that it's like the last year that we can really talk about this, because the Big Ten is going to have 18 teams next year. The SEC is only going to have 16. It's all over the place, but the Big Ten having the most teams kind of makes it a little bit unfair. But Michigan's going to be such a big part of that, and you're going to look at this class going, wow, okay, I get why they won a national championship and why they were able to beat Alabama en route to doing that.
I'm interested to see what Jim Harbaugh does in the draft. How many Michigan guys he takes as well.
If Jim Harbaugh doesn't draft Brock Bowers at 5, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be really upset because, their use of the tight end, it just kind of makes a lot of sense. And with him coming off the year that he did, where he finally showed that he was a human being and he could actually get injured, I still think that he finished his career as the best tight end that we've ever had in college football. And if that guy is sitting there in the middle of the first round and not taken at that 5th spot by Harbaugh, or taken at 9 by my Chicago Bears, I'm going to be really, really upset. So I do find myself hoping that Harbaugh just gives me that little bit of satisfaction knowing that somebody that good should be drafted that high. But, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, how awkward does that become? Like, you're obviously not going to go out and get a J.J. McCarthy when you have a Justin Herbert. But, every time Harbaugh takes the Michigan guy, it's going to be like, oh, geez, wonder where exactly he got the intel on that guy.
Connor's got a column that appears in Saturday Down South from 3 days ago titled, "The Realistic Path for 2024 to Not Be Sam Pittman's Last Season at Arkansas." Connor, you can explain. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, I think there are 4 coaches in the SEC, Pittman being one of them, that are just kind of in a really difficult spot, an uphill climb wherein their jobs could be very much on the line, and it's very well known that their jobs are very much on the line. But I do think that there is a world in which you can go 7-5 if you're Arkansas with the way that the schedule shakes out, how home-friendly it is, and you can still see Sam Pittman getting a year 6. Now, that'll be easier said than done. I don't think that's a guarantee. But the way that I kind of mapped it out, I was like, all right, you got to get to that first bye week at 3-3. Remember, there are 2 bye weeks this year. And that means winning one of the following games: at Oklahoma, at Auburn, against A&M in Arlington, or home against Tennessee. You have to win one of those. I'm not saying you got to win multiple or anything like that. But if you can win one of those games, which I think the two more realistic ones, I think home against A&M, or not home against A&M, but in Arlington against the Aggies, year one, Mike Elko is realistic. And then at Auburn, a team that's been herky-jerky all over the place so far with Hugh Freeze, I think that's realistic. And then you just need that home upset. That's the biggest thing. Like, think about this, guys. I was going back to the last time that Arkansas won a game at home against a Power 5 team where temperatures were above freezing. So that rules out the Ole Miss game at the end of 2022. You have to go back to that South Carolina game early in the 2022 season to find that example. That Power 5 team that Arkansas beat at home and temperatures were above freezing. Arkansas fans deserve better. They deserve better, and if the optics are really bad down the stretch and if they don't pull off one of those home upsets, then obviously, it's going to be a really difficult road for Sam Pittman to be able to get a year 6.
I mean, you had a group of 5 loss at home during that time, too, to Liberty. And
Phil, to Connor's point, Sam Pittman usually does win one road conference game. I mean, he beat Florida. Even last year, they beat Florida.
You're right.
Yeah, like the home upsets, you got home against Tennessee, home against LSU, home against Ole Miss, home against Texas. You have to get one. You have to get one of those games, because I think that so much of this is going to be about optics. And as much as Hunter Yurachek is going to go to bat for Sam Pittman, I mean, that's why he's back. Another AD probably would have moved on because of how bad the optics were. I think that's such a big part of this conversation. And I do find myself optimistic that Bobby Petrino is the right guy to be able to turn around the offense, because I think he was better than people realize at A&M. And even once you sift through all of the history associated with that, you realize this guy still is a really good offensive mind and an upgrade over Danny. Not saying much, but still. And then, being able to give those home fans something that's worth cheering about is such a big part of Sam Pittman's future. And I think it's something that we'll be talking about a lot this season.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.